Hello there, Alaskans, wherever you are. Welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show, coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. This is the place where we talk about, you guessed it, Alaska, where we keep the mainstream media on their toes and where we are standing up for what's right in a world run by leftists. You can find out more by heading over to mustreadalaska.com and also checking out the Must Read Alaska YouTube channel for some really great content. But first, let's get this party started. What's good, Alaska? This is Scott Levesque, and you're listening to the Daily Dose of the Must Read Alaska podcast. First, let me say welcome. Thank you for joining with us today on a incredibly bright and beautiful Wednesday, but a little bit really cold here in Anchorage. It's hovering right around -9, and I've got a full winter coat on indoors just to let you know how incredibly cold it is, but it is beautiful out there. I want to welcome you. Thank you. It is 2022, and we're kicking things off right. And really, this is an awesome time. I've got Suzanne Downing on with me today. It's really great to have you on, Suzanne. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And, it is a gorgeous day in Anchorage. It's just a bluebird day. And if it wasn't for that -9 degrees, but this is the old Alaska from the way back before we all got into the global warming fad. This is kind of how it typically was until we sort of went through that little period of time for a few years where things were kind of warmer. So I don't know. We just got to put our bunny boots on and deal with it, I guess.
Absolutely. Listen, I still walk to work, so nothing is going to faze me. It helps with the health. That's what I say. The cold helps with the health, if you will.
How far do you walk to work? I mean,
it's not far. It's less than a quarter of a mile. But hey, I'm just doing my best for global warming, as they say. But anywho, let's not talk about that. Let's move on because we have a special guest on today, and I'm really excited that Senator Shelley Hughes is with us. And we asked her to come on because there's this incredible fundraising event that's going to be happening on January 12th, which is next Wednesday from 5 to 7 p.m. It's at St. Coyotes, and that's on the West Diamond Boulevard in Anchorage. And the fundraiser is called the Winter Storm Disaster Relief Fundraiser. And I don't want to spoil it too much because I think Senator Hughes has a lot to talk about. But there's some really great Alaskans here that are serving the public that are going to be involved in this. Rep. Tom McKay, Senator Roger Holland, Rep. David Nelson, Representative Donald Gillum, obviously our guest today, Senator Shelley Hughes. But also there's going to be a special host. Governor Dunleavy is going to be there. We'll also have some couple of co-hosts with Mayor Dave Bronson, Charlie Pierce, Glenda Ledford, and the list goes on. There's some, including you, Suzanne, are on this list. And I just want to say that I am really proud of Alaskans to help Alaskans. But Senator Hughes, thank you so much for joining with us. Let's bring you on right now. Thank you for joining with us today. And can you kind of talk a little bit about how this kind of came about? I'm sure it was quick, but can you kind of talk to us a little bit about this event on Wednesday?
Well, first, I'm honored to help kick off the year and to be with you, Scott and Suzanne. And we kind of got a kick of a new year, right? Didn't we? With the New Year storms around the state. And we were actually planning a candidate fundraiser. Rep. McCabe and Nelson, Gillum, and Senator Holland, myself. And we had it set January 12th. And a few weeks ago, just that typical traditional candidate fundraiser, and started thinking about it the last few days as I've been fielding a lot of phone calls, trying to help a lot of people, getting briefed. I'm trying to figure out and assess the situation, not just here, but in other parts of the state, not just in the Mat-Su, but I've been talking with folks in Juneau. They've been hit really hard, very cold temperatures there, very deep snow. They're having trouble keeping the roads clear and just keeping things heated and together, and talking to Mike Cronk up in the Denali Borough, and realized that it didn't seem like the right time to put our hands out. And as candidates, we have to run in November, and we're heading down to Juneau. Most of us are leaving at the end of next week. So time is a little bit limited, but we felt the priority right now is to help everybody get back on their feet. And so in the last 48 hours or so, we started having that conversation and made a firm decision because we had a flyer all ready to go out that looked a lot different than what's circulating there now. And we just changed it up and said, let's do what we can. And one of the most important things was to figure out how could people donate and make sure the dollars, every penny stays in state. So
Yeah.
if you'd like, I can explain how we went about to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just to give people a little bit of background, on Monday, Governor Dunleavy did declare disasters in the Matsu Valley, the Fairbanks Delta, and uh, Denali Borough as well. And there's been a lot of things hit hard there. I know in Matsu, incredibly powerful winds have swept across there. I know in Juneau, we reported on an avalanche that happened there, and just around the state, and particularly those boroughs, there's been a lot going on. So that's sort of the precipice of this. Obviously, you're fielding calls about, hey, what are we going to do? We got people out of power. We got people that are trapped. And so, first of all, I want to thank you, Senator Hughes, for doing this and kind of changing plans on a dime. I think this speaks powerful to our public servants who are trying to help those that they serve, their constituents. But yeah, can you tell us a little bit about how people can donate to this cause and this fund?
I certainly can. I'm going to preface it, though. I got phone calls, and that's on Sunday, Monday, from people who couldn't open their doors. And a couple of them were elderly people living alone. And one of them said she was almost out of groceries. What was she to do? These were the kind of calls that we were fielding. I had also been hearing what was happening up in Fairbanks the prior week and in Denali, because they got hit earlier. And, then it started sweeping our area. And so that kind of set the stage. And then as we worked on this, it's like, I want to make sure every penny collected would stay in the state and be specific for disaster relief purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So we did some calling around, and we came up with, if we donate to the Red Cross of Alaska, so not American Red Cross, but Red Cross of Alaska, and a person designates on the memo line disaster relief, every penny of every dollar will stay in the state and be used for that purpose that impacted regions right now would be eligible. If another area gets hit with a storm, they also would be eligible. If a person donates online, they do go to American Red Cross, but by being from Alaska and having an Alaska address, it will go to Alaska. But there's a drop-down menu when you first get on their first page, and you have to choose disaster relief. You don't get to choose Alaska, but you do choose disaster relief. But the default is, if you're doing it from Alaska and you have an Alaska address, it will go to Alaskan, the disaster relief. So
Senator Hughes, what we'll do is we'll actually put that in the show notes, direct link
Great.
to them to be able to do that, so that we try to mitigate as much confusion as possible in that, because I know there's a lot of steps.
Yeah, perfect. We were thinking back to the earthquake. We do get disasters. I don't know, it'd be interesting compared to other states, but between flooding, by the way, we heard that the LIO in Matsu, one end of it, was having some flooding even today. And I haven't heard yet the cause of that, if it's frozen pipes or what's going on. Right. But then we had the 2018 earthquake, and it dawned on me as we were deciding how to do this, that when the earthquake happened, we pulled together, we helped one another, and people were donating and calling up and saying, how can we help? Where can we donate? People were doing that, but I don't believe there was an event. And excuse the pun, but maybe we were just a bit too shaken up. Mm-hmm. But this time we were like, there's nothing. Anchorage did not get hit this time. They were, they've had other situations. This time they kind of were protected. And so I am very grateful how gracious the legislators are that are from the Anchorage area, Tom McKay, Roger Holland, David Nelson, that they are willing, their area wasn't hit, but they're willing to use their venue, their area to host this. And so there is a place where we can safely come together, and we're going to do it.
That's awesome. No, I think that's it really shows again that Alaska to Alaska spirit, the fact that as Alaskans, we know that we've got to help each other out, regardless if we were directly impacted by the devastation that's happened over the last couple of days or not. And I think that's a testament to everybody involved in this fundraiser. Suzanne, do you have any questions that you want to ask as well? I don't want to take over all the airwaves here.
Well, I really appreciate you being on the show with us, Senator. And I just want to remind people that if they go to mustreadalaska.com, they can see the flyer there. And when they look at the flyer, there is a QR code on that flyer. And if they know how to use QR codes, it's with your phone, and you just hold it up to that code, and then it'll sort of pop up into a pay function for you. And if you're used to using QR codes and comfortable donating that way, that is a really slick way of doing it. And I think it's really great that you put that on there. But the flyer is at mustreadalaska.com, and it does have all the information about how to, what you could either write a check, you just write a check to Red Cross of Alaska. And I really like this idea that the money stays in state. I remember the Red Cross of America, it got in a bit of hot water after Hurricane Katrina because it was getting a lot of donations in. And not all of them were going to Katrina victims, and people felt like they had a little bit of a bait and switch. They changed their policy several years ago so that you can designate the area that the money will be spent in. And in this case, I know, Senator, that the Red Cross is already active in the Valley, that they're providing shelter in these, there's shelters that have been set up. Do you want to tell us where they are? The ones in the Matthew Senior
one
Center?
is at the what we all call the Palmer Senior Center. Technically, the name is now Matthew Senior Services, right in the downtown Palmer area, which, by the way, the city of Palmer got hit pretty hard. The other is out in the Menard Sports Center on the other side of Wasilla. And I want to make mention too, Suzanne and Scott, that I've had a lot of legislators call me like, why didn't you tell us you were doing this? We would have hopped on. We want to support this. So there are a lot of wonderful Republican legislators out there that are supporting this. And I said, it wasn't intentional to leave anybody out. It's just we switched what was going to be a joint candidate fundraiser and turned it quickly into a disaster relief fundraiser. So any of those legislators are welcome to attend and support the cause. We just couldn't fit them all on an 8.5 by 11 flyer.
Right. Well, I appreciate you fitting my name on there because I am really, really into this fundraiser. I just think it's so good of you guys to do this, and I appreciate it so much. Is there anything else that we need to get across? I know we have to let you go, that you only had a few minutes with us.
Well, I'll just point out I think you said it's St. Coyotes, 5 to 7. And if you can't attend, you can still donate, right?
Absolutely.
Way to do that. But if you can attend, we'd love you to come. The governor will be there in person. We have some prominent mayors, Dave Bronson of Anchorage, Charlie Pierce from down in Kenai, Glenda Ledford out in Wasilla. And a number of our sponsors will be there. And we do have prominent names: Lauren Lehman, former Lieutenant Governor, Meade Treadwell, Mayor Dan Sullivan, and others. The list goes on. And some of those will be present. Some may not be there, but they support the cause. So we welcome people to come. It's open to the public.
Well, you are such an incredible leader. I thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thank you, Scott and Suzanne.
Take care, Senator Hughes. We do appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So just so that everybody's clear, again, this is really important that you know that all the monies that are going to be donated to this fundraiser, both in person and through the Red Cross website, which we'll have in the show notes so that we make it as simple for you as possible, will go directly to Alaskans for Alaska, for those in need. And I think that's really important. I think this is an opportunity, again, to Suzanne, for us to rally around regardless of political affiliation and really help out our brothers and sisters that are in need, particularly around these boroughs that have been hit the hardest in time. So I appreciate Senator Hughes being on there. It has been devastating. I mean, me personally, I know that we're kind of transitioning now after Senator Hughes had to leave. Me personally, I've been out in the Valley helping some people that I know get through some of the things. I mean, some people still don't have power. I know the company out there has been working, power company been working overtime, but there are people that don't have power. Some of them don't have fireplaces to keep themselves warm. They don't have water. As you heard Senator Hughes say, some of them are trapped and can't get groceries. I know that currently right now, there are quite a few churches out there trying to take in supplies and anything they need, as well as the Red Cross who's out there now to try to help alleviate some of these issues that are out there, both in Wasilla, Denali, Fairbanks. and the Delta. But man, it is. What are you hearing? I mean,
Oh, well, I was just a little bit surprised to hear that some people couldn't even get out their doors, but that doesn't, I guess when I think about it, doesn't surprise me so much because that wind and it's just slamming all that ice and snow against people's buildings. And if their door is facing the force of the wind, they are going to be completely iced over. And so that doesn't surprise me. But let's talk a little bit about the faith-based response to this. Now, I know you have been out there on mission, basically, with your church, delivering things like generators and water. And tell me about the charitable thing that you got going on yourself.
Yeah. So along with our state reps and our senators and a lot of our representatives in these communities, I think this is one of those times where faith-based community as well, churches in the area really step up and help the community. And I know, for example, Change Point out there is a great church on the rock. We're in coordination with a lot of those churches who know specific needs and specific communities and families that are in need. So we've been trying to coordinate with them, and we have, whether it's water, whether it's generators, whether it's, how else can we help? Do we need to shovel people out? Whatever it is. We've been in communication, particularly in the Matsu, just out of convenience of location. But we're also looking at other areas where we could either send help or coordinate as well. So it's been pretty powerful. I've been out there to help set up generators. People's pipes are frozen. I mean, it's not just it was wind, it's now you're at negative degrees. And so, when things get shut off, your power, you don't have hot water flowing through your baseboard heating. There's just a lot of issues. So we've had generators.
So Scott, some of these folks, when they're, like you said, the baseboard heater, if it's using water heat, and if the interior of your home is now 3 degrees, and I've heard that for several, many people have told me that it is for many, many people, the interior of the home is now, 3 degrees. Okay, well, that water baseboard is going to freeze up.
Absolutely.
It may have some antifreeze qualities, but maybe not enough for 3 degrees. And then also water to your sink and to your washing machine. And then even well heads, if they get frozen up, it's going to be months for some of these people before they can get them fixed, because we have a labor shortage as well. And so just even being able to find people to go in and do the plumbing, when things start thawing out, of course, the pipes will burst and they'll start spraying all over and there'll be water damage. I mean, this is a really serious problem, but I think the labor problem is equally serious in trying to get these repairs made. Therefore, I really do think there's a role for the faith-based community to step in right now. Government probably can't fix all of this.
Yeah.
And maybe you and I can talk offline about, what a faith-based response would look like, because this is the time for, voluntary organizations active in disaster to mobilize.
Yeah.
And for the faith-based groups active in disaster, the Baptist Church is incredibly good at mobilizing this stuff. So they do have a role here. And I think maybe what we ought to do is get involved and start rallying some of our church fellows to take note of what's actually going on, because these are hidden problems.
Yeah, I would say probably the biggest need that I've heard, particularly out in the valley in Palmer and Wasilla, where the hardest areas have been hit and electricity's been out for a while, are these pipe warmers, which you can, these pipe warmers help alleviate the possibility. So just so people know, a lot of people, what they're doing is going to crawl spaces, putting in these massive heaters and hope that the pipes heat up. The problem with that is if you have a blockage because of ice, you probably all heard this at some point when you were growing up. Maybe if you lived in a cold area, you hear this gadoosh, and that's a flushing of the system, which can create havoc on its own. You don't even need to bust the pipe. You can, do damage without it. And so a lot of people are just trying to do that. They're just trying to warm up their pipes so that whatever's frozen, as slow as they can, to try to make sure that there's no damage, but they get the heat, circulating again. So a lot of it is just generators. A lot of it is providing pipe warmers so that there's a safe and reasonable way to kind of warm up those pipes without busting them. And then, of course, the fact that if you're familiar with how to do plumbing, or if you're familiar with the systems normally seem to be around here, which is registers and I'm losing my train of thought here. But if you know how to utilize that kind of stuff and get through and help people get their house back and heated and so forth, that's a huge thing, because there is a lot of people right now that they have electricity, but because they've had nothing for so long, their water's not circulating through their system, and it's not creating heat, and so they're out.
And then if what they do is they open up the oven and they turn it on to high and turn it on to boil. I remember this from a kid, because we had lots of power outages in Juneau as a kid. And then you heat up what you can, but that's not what's getting underneath, inside where the pipes are frozen. So then you get under there with a hairdryer or heat lamp, and I mean, there's things that can be done. So I think we should, what we should do is, when we get done with this podcast, I think we should definitely take this conversation to the next level, you and I, and talk about how we can rally more people to, get involved. But again, the fundraiser is for the Red Cross, and the Red Cross typically does sort of the immediate disaster work. In other words, they are going to be providing meals in the shelters, where if you don't have heat in your home, you better get to a shelter, right? At some point, you just go. And they'll be providing meals. They can provide clothing and other kinds of necessities. And they usually have somebody who can help you get your medications or whatever it is you need. They do have a really good, robust system, and they're very good at that immediate relief. They are not that designed for long-term recovery. And you have a disaster like this. I mean, we are really at the point where we're probably going to need FEMA to come in. We have more. FEMA typically, I mean, that will require a federal disaster declaration. I don't know if Biden will give us one, but typically when you have 50 to 100 homes or more that have suffered major damage, that's when you can get that federal declaration. And then that's when you can get FEMA to come in and start doing case management, because that's what you're going to need. These people have just been through just a tremendous amount of hardship the past week.
And the problem is that the weather's not relenting either. So that's even more disconcerting, is that it's continuing to be in the negatives, which, again, we don't want to see anybody hurt because of this. So I just want to, before we sign off, and I think you're absolutely right, we could probably do a little bit more on our end here to help rally those faith-based communities. But in terms of Senator Hughes, I want to remind people that if you can attend, it's next Wednesday, January 12th, from 5 to 7 at St. Coyote's. And we'll have all of that information on Facebook. There's obviously a post, a article that Suzanne wrote that's under Governor Declares Disaster. That's one way to read about it. We have it on our Facebook page, including the the graphic that was created that gives you a little bit of information on how you can give, and when you're there, who do you write the check out to. But also in our show notes, we will have a direct link to the Red Cross, so that you know how and where that you can give, so that Alaskans receive your funds for this disaster relief as well. And listen, it's, again, as much as we are all divided, as much as we divide on politics and maybe social issues and fiscal policy and blah, 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 blah. I think the one thing that I've loved about Alaska is that when people are down, it doesn't matter what color that you ride with in the tribe. We're all part of the Alaska tribe. And it's really great to see people coming together and helping out these particular communities at this time. Even if you're not affected by it, you are going to be affected by it, because there are people that that live in those communities that could really use your help. So I would really appreciate it. All you listeners here on Must Read Alaska and our readers and supporters, take some time to actually get involved with this, because it helps Alaskans.
Thanks so much, Scott. You are an absolute champ, and it's been a really great show today. I sure am glad you let me come on with you.
I appreciate you joining with me today. Absolutely. And again, if you're looking for more news, or listen, you're not always up on the website, but you get, Facebook alerts from us or whatnot, I would recommend doing a couple things. One is like us on Facebook. We're railing towards 25,000, and that's what we want to try to do. But also on YouTube, we have great content on there, including videos and stuff that we're going to be posting on a pretty regular basis. So you can subscribe and hit the notification bell as well. And we're on other platforms: MeWe, Parler, Twitter, Rumble, all under the same handle, which is Must Read Alaska, one word. Guys, thank you so much. Again, I'm always reminded, particularly in the new year, how much a community means to everybody, particularly in this time when we have such need in these communities. rallying around together and being able to provide the aid, because Suzanne, you're totally right. The Red Cross will help the immediate, but there are some long-term issues that need to be addressed, and that's where we step in as community members. So thank you so much, Suzanne, for joining with me today, guys. Thank you so much, and until tomorrow, take care.